Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting for the town of Quispamsis for Tuesday, December 12th. With that, we'll move on to item 2, approval of agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? Mr. Guest? So moved. Can I have a seconder on that? Brenda?
I'll second that.
All right. Can we have a vote on that, please? I don't want to see that. The motion's carried unanimously. With that, we'll move on to item 3, disclosure of interest. None being, we'll move on to item 4, approval of previous minutes. Any amendments to the minutes? None being, can I have a motion to approve, please? Brenda?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder on that?
I'll second it.
Kendall? Thank you. Can we have a vote on that, please? Okay, the motion's carried unanimously. Let's get a log in here for a second. 2 seconds. Sorry about that delay. We'll move on to item 5, business arising from previous minutes. Can I have a motion to receive and file?
So
Mr.
moved.
Preston, thank you. Can I have a seconder on that?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Goslin. With that being, can we have a vote on that, please? That motion's carried unanimously. With that being, we'll move on to item 6, unfinished business. None being, we'll move on to item 7A. 7A is an application for a limited, first of all, sorry about that. Can the applicant come up to the podium, applicant here? No? Jennifer, you want to introduce that item to us, please?
Mr. Chair, I was just wondering if we'd be able to postpone that to later on in the meeting to give the applicant an opportunity to arrive.
We'll do that, okay? Perfect. We'll defer that to, it'll be at the end after item, potentially after item G, or could be before item G. Thank you. That being, we'll move on to item 7B, 440 Gondola Point Road. Could the applicant please come up to the podium and state their name for the record?
Stuart McAvoy.
Stuart, Jennifer, you going to introduce us to that item first, and we'll have a chat?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the members. This is an application for a rezoning at 440, 442 Gondola Point Road. The request that's before you is to help council make a decision and see if you would like to support them in this decision. Mr. McAvoy is here to request that a portion of 4 PIDs be rezoned to R1 residential to accommodate the parsonage and then the sale of that as a single family dwelling, separating it from the institutional use of the church. The staff report contains information, just basic information, but also goes into some detail about what I would consider important considerations for the terms and conditions. So currently there are an arrangement where we have one well servicing both lots and one sewer lateral servicing both lots, or sorry, both buildings being one lot. So the requirement would be that we would have at least one well for each building, and that would have to be installed prior. Staff would recommend that it be installed prior to the approval of the subdivision, and that would be to support each building, and that sewer lateral be extended to the church to accommodate the sewage from that building. And if PAC have any other further questions for me, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. McAvoy, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or members of the public asking you questions?
Was outlined pretty well in the staff report there, so I'm just ready to do my best to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? None being, is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time. Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please? Mr. Preston.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion PAC support council on the rezoning PID 30082119 and a portion of PID 00247569, PID 30082127, and PID 30082101 from institutional zoning to a single or two-family residential R1 to accommodate the sale of the parsonage as a single-family dwelling subject to the following terms and conditions. 1. A new private well will be installed within the new lot boundary of the church prior to approval of the proposed subdivision. All costs associated with the installation of the well is the sole responsibility of the landowner and must be installed prior to the approval of the proposed subdivision. Installation of the drill well is to be done by a qualified professional following the requirements of the Clean Water Act and holding a well driller permit. And the church building, and 2, the church building to be connected directly to the municipal sewage collection system by way of existing sewage lateral prior to the approval of the proposed subdivision. All costs associated with this connection are the sole responsibility of the landowner. The sewage lateral is to be done by a licensed contractor in the province of New Brunswick.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. Could I have a seconder on that? Mr. Guest.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any debate on that motion? None being, can we have a vote, please? That being said, motion's carried unanimously, 5 to 7 business days. You have a letter in the mail with approval, so please work with the town to have all necessary documentation in place, and best of luck.
Everybody.
You're welcome. What? Dwight, have a question?
I do.
I didn't see any. You can come up.
Doesn't that have to go to council because they have their public meeting? December 19th.
So yeah, so that was that we support council, right? Yes, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you're not going to get a letter. You'll get a notification that you go to council for. I wasn't paying attention. Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, Brenda. Give me. That being, we'll move on to item 7C. 7C, could the applicant please come up to the podium? I think that's Mr. Dunn. And Jennifer, you want to introduce that item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, this is an application to amend a developer's agreement that is currently registered against the property of 160 Pettingill Road. The reason for the amendment is the applicant has decided to reconfigure the buildings and removing the semi-detached buildings and the single dwellings that were proposed for the front and top of the lot, and changing them to 4 plexes at the entrance and 6 plexes along the hillside. 2 apartment buildings at the lower end of the lot were to be 12 units each, and they have been reduced to 6. The reconfiguration, the original one was for 72 dwellings. The reconfiguration ends with 70 dwelling units, so it's not a big difference in the number of doors that are being proposed. There was a bit of a reconfiguration done at the front end of the entrance. I'm not sure if it shows on this iteration, but the plan does show the road, each side having its own separate exit entrance sort of off of that main road, so that not all of those units are backing into and off of that public right-of-way, that there's a bit of a buffer there. The other thing to mention is that this change would require a further bit of buffering, if you will, along where the single-family dwellings would be. That would now need to be buffered, as it would be a multi-unit. Just seeing if there's anything of any importance that I've failed to mention to you. This would have to go through a similar process of rezoning, in that it does have to go through the public hearing process. And after that, the council can, by resolution, decide to amend the agreement. So this is the first phase. Would be asking for your opinions and to seek your support in council on this decision. And if you have any questions, I'm available to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Dunn, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or members of the public asking you questions?
Nope, Jennifer did a great job.
All right, thank you. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Preston.
I'm assuming most of these buildings are going to be similar to what you're building out the Vincent Road now?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, okay. The project's coming along nicely.
Thanks, yep, looking good.
Good. Guess my other question for staff is, with this concentration of housing in such a small area, do we need a secondary, does Mr. Dunn need a secondary access?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So in terms of secondary access, it would be connected eventually to Heritage Way, taking all the way down to the new development below Heritage, and then ultimately connecting you into the Kensington Pettingill Road intersection. And then at the top, obviously, there's an access that would go to Southwood. So simply would be a subdivision off of almost like a crescent, if you will. Okay, so there is alternate access into that subdivision if need be, in terms of if there's some incident at the intersection of Southwood and Pettingill, there's alternate access out of there. So, yep.
Any further questions for the applicant from members of the PAC? Brenda.
Just a quick one. When you had your apartment buildings, they would take up less land mass because up, right? So what is the coverage on that property? More ground used, I guess, and more pavement or runoff, and I was just trying to,
I don't know truthfully. I don't think it's taking up much more, if any, land. Because there was planned to have semi-detached units and roads and a cul-de-sac, which are now gone. So I think it'd probably be maybe less.
yeah, because I wonder, you know, the water has to go somewhere. And I don't worry about it coming to me, but when I come out my street, I'm still on Maple Grove Court, trying to make that left-hand turn.
That's a tough one.
It takes forever. And it's even worse for Cedar Grove because the visibility's not good there. Anyway, but that's my big worry.
White?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so one of the items to note is that we're not increasing the number of units on the property. We're simply pulling them together or reconfiguring them in some cases. So in terms of the hard surfaces, it would be, you're looking at basically if you had a duplex, now you're putting them together.
Okay.
Which means in terms of the hard surfaces, you're not increasing the hard surfaces, you're localizing them, which means the intensity of the flows that may be coming off of that building at a particular location may have increased. So that would be looked at as part of the final approved stormwater management plan. All the water is getting directed to an attenuation pond. So if the capacity there is in question, then they'd have to step back to look at some sort of intermediate control. But in terms of adding more hard surfaces, in terms of area, you're simply bringing things together. Yep.
And a question for Dwight, you have to pay the pros and when they use up the left wetlands, you have to pay the province. Is that come back to us or they can keep it?
The funds? So do I answer that question directly, or do I just say we all know the answer? That goes, the province directs, normally it goes through Ducks Unlimited, is what we've seen in the past in terms of the compensation. So it would be towards either improving or creating a wetland elsewhere. So it doesn't come back to the, in terms of the funds directly to the municipality.
Quispamsis or Shediac?
That's a question that we'd have to go through Ducks Unlimited.
I'm just being me.
Thank you, Dwight. Any further questions from members of PAC to the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please? Mr. Guest?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I put forward the motion that the Planning Advisory Committee support the council in amending the existing registered section 59 CPA development agreement for the terrace home project located at 160 Pettingill Road, PID 251462, subject to the following terms and conditions. Amend the development agreement, paragraph 2B, to reflect the new building configuration. Number 2, amend Schedule B of the development agreement to reflect the new building configuration. Number 3, amend paragraph 3F of the registered development agreement to increase the project timelines by 1 calendar year, with permit applications received for Phase 1 no later than June 2024, and with the development proceeding substantially by December 2024. And number 4, a revised site plan identifying a 5-meter wide buffer zone along all property lines abutting any R1 properties is submitted prior to the signing of the amending development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Guest. Can I have a seconder on that? Brent?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Mark got it. Okay, Mark Goslin, second that. Thank you, Mark. Any questions or any discussion on the motion? None being, can we have a vote, please? That motion's carried unanimously. Is that next week, council, for that one, or no, after Christmas? Okay. you'll get a letter in the mail about when that next meeting is, a public meeting for that, Mr. Dunn. So best of luck, and please work with the town and council. Hopefully that'll move ahead for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Okay, with that being, we'll move on to item 7D, Country View Estates. Could the applicant please come up to the podium? And Dwight, you want to introduce that item first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to PEC members. So the subdivision plan that's before the PAC is a subdivision that's proposing the creation of two lots, lot 23-1, 23-2, which encompasses a prior subdivision plan that came to the Planning Advisory Committee under the title of Country View Estates Phase 6. And subsequently, that subdivision plan looked at the development of that full PID, if you will, those two lots that are currently being proposed for subdivision, with a focus on, in terms of development, it's been more so in that area comprised of lot 23-1. The reason plans before the Planning Advisory Committee is because it's creating a lot that does front of Municipal Street. So lot 23-2 does not have access to a public street. Therefore, in accordance with the subdivision bylaw and the zoning bylaw, a lot must have access to a public street or access otherwise approved by the Planning Advisory Committee. What's proposed is a right-of-way across lot 23-1, providing access to 23-2. That would be coming off of Flagstone Drive. The actual right-of-way is a reflection of a public street width that's been proposed in the development of Country View Phase 6A. So at this point in time, the plan is before the Planning Advisory Committee, looking for support or approval of the proposed right-of-way, giving access to lot 23-2. Also, as indicated in my staff report, we have seen similar subdivisions come to the Planning Advisory Committee in the past when you're looking at a significant large tract of land that's getting developed out in phases. The developer normally likes to carve off just a portion of that area that is obviously the focus of the current development. So it allows for sort of better land management, asset management in terms of assets to get liabilities through the development process. Planning staff has no sort of concerns with the proposal, recognizing there is already development happening in that particular area, and the developer is at the stage where he's moving forward with a subdivision plan, moving towards council for assent for phase 6A, which is sort of that lot 23-1. So this stage is looking for approval or other recommendations or options with respect to the proposed right-of-way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dwight. Could you please state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Mark Rinaldi.
Mark Rinaldi.
Yes.
Mark, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to discuss prior to members of PAC or the public asking you a few questions?
No, we're in concurrence with the report.
Okay. So you're going to develop the first phase first, that's the plan, and do the other second part, 23-2 later on? Is that what the...
Yes, that's what we had came with the tentative approval before previously.
Perfect. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? None being. Is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time. Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please? Kendall.
Mr. Chairman, I'll put a motion forward. I recommend the Planning Advisory Committee approve the proposed access to lot 23-2 at Country View Estates subdivision, so the plan can be approved by the development officer for registration. Payment of the applicable filing fees is required. In the event lot 23-1 and 23-2 are developed as shown, the approval would be subject to the following prior to the issuing a building permit. Number one, the property owner is to enter into a hold harmless agreement to protect the town and to make the property and homeowners aware of the responsibilities associated with the private driveway that does not front a municipal street and highlights the concerns from fire, police, and the ambulance and the importance of unobstructed access. Number two, a hold harmless agreement is to incorporate a clause whereby it is recognized that investment made in construction of private access will not be recovered if it is destroyed during construction of a public street to municipal standards, and the owner further agrees to maintain the access to a reasonable standard satisfactory to the town till such time as the private access becomes a public street. Number three, submission of an on-site septic approval from the New Brunswick Department of Justice and Public Safety, confirming the property can support the proposed level of residential development prior to issuing of a building permit. Number four, the property owners are responsible for all costs associated with drilling, installation, testing, maintenance of the on-site private well system, and it is to be completed by an active New Brunswick licensed well driller. And number five, the development is to be completed per all applicable provincial acts and regulations and the town bylaws.
Thank you, Kendall. Can I have a seconder on that? Mr. Guest?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any debate on that motion? Okay, that being, can we have a vote, please? Oh, go ahead, Brent, sorry.
My only question was the item about septic, did not already have underground services to that site?
The consideration for planning is if something happens in terms of lot 23-2, that we cover all bases. So if there's access to municipal sewer, obviously that would trump on-site septic, but it's looking at all the bases in terms of approvals.
Is that okay, Brent? Thank you. No further debate on that motion. Can we have a vote, please? That motion's carried unanimously. And with that, you'll have down here, letter in the mail with your approval in the next 5 to 7 business days. Please work the town, have all necessary paperwork in place. Thank you. Best of luck. That being, we're going to move on to item 7E. That's Carson Hills Estates. I understand that's going to be looked after by yourself, Dwight. No applicant here for that, or? That's correct. Go ahead, Dwight, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Planning Advisory Committee. So the subdivision plan that's before the Planning Advisory Committee is with respect to a plan proposing to create land for public purposes in the amount of 1,509 square meters. This is in the area of Carson Hill Estates, subdivision development that's been before the Planning Advisory Committee previously. That particular subdivision development has had approval for 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. And at that review and recommendations of approval, it was recommended that land for public purposes obligations be fulfilled through land for public purposes dedication. So the plan that's before the Planning Advisory Committee fulfills or builds on those recommendations, and that were conditions of approval. What has brought this forward is the town has undertaken the development of a trail network that extends from the Hammond River Road through the public right-of-way known as the Lambs Ferry Road, and then makes a connection from that towards the public street of Alpenglow and ultimately to the Model Farm Road. So it was an opportunity to work with the landowner, the developer, to acquire that land at this stage to fulfill the obligations that came as a result of the previous phases of Carson Hill. And so we approached the developer and engaged to see if he was prepared at this time to bring that plan forward. And he was happy to engage in that. And so the plan that was before the Planning Advisory Committee proposes creation of that land for public purposes. It won't, in terms of fulfillment of all the obligations, there's still an outstanding item. However, there is further requirements for land for public purposes, lands for public purposes in that area that would meet any outstanding obligations. At this stage, planning does not have any sort of concerns with the proposed land for public purposes. It does meet the sort of the policy statements and directions that we see in the municipal plan with respect to land for public purposes being used as trail networks or active transportation. So at this stage, I'm looking for recommendations from the Planning Advisory Committee prior to taking the plan to council for assent in accordance with the Community Planning Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. Any members of PAC have any questions for town staff on this item? None being. Anyone online or in the audience want to put a motion forward against the terms and conditions or any debate? Is there anyone online or in the audience like to discuss this item any further? Third and final time. Is there anyone in the audience or online? Discuss this item, none being. Would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with of the proposed recommendation to for Planning Advisory Committee and to take this to council? Grant assent. Brent?
Make the motion, PAC find the proposed 1,509 square meters of land acceptable for LPP purposes and recommends council grant assent to 629248 MB Limited Subdivision Plan.
Thank you, Brent. Can I have a seconder on that? Mr. Guest?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. I thought your flag come up. It must have been Kendall. Was it? No? With that being, we have a motion on, or a vote on that, please. That motion's carried unanimously, and we recommend, PAC recommends council grant assent to the 629248 NB Limited subdivision plan. That being, move on to item 6F, or 7F. 7F's been postponed. That being, we'll move on to item 7G.
Hello. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to interrupt or not. But I was supposed to join at 6 p.m. My name is Shabahat. This is for 175 Hampton Road. But I was in the middle of my daughter's birthday, so I totally forgot. So I don't know where my application is, but just wanted to let everyone know that I am on the bridge now.
Yeah, we're gonna hear that at the end. So we'll do this item here, 7G. Then we'll go back to your item, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, you want to introduce this item for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you to the members, this is a request made by staff to amend, yet again, the development agreement for the doggy daycare at 80 Millennium Drive. We've been here on a few occasions for this project. Uh, The last time I brought it forward was to amend notice of decision to include the requirement for a development agreement, and the committee graciously approved that. However, in the notice of decision, it was written that the development agreement would have to be registered against the property. This was not part of a Section 39 or Section 59 rezoning, therefore it does not require to be registered against the property. In this case, it's a development agreement between a business owner and the town, and it's to sort of really drive home those decisions that were a part of the notice of decision, the terms and conditions. So I am humbly asking PAC to consider approving an amendment to remove the requirement to register the development agreement for 80 Millennium Drive for the doggy daycare, to remove that request, and just to leave it as a development agreement. Thank you. If there's any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Jennifer. Would any members of PAC have any questions on that item to Jennifer or town staff? None being, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion forward with the amendment to the plan?
Mr. Chairman,
Kendall?
if I may,
Oh, Mark, go ahead.
put a motion forward that the Planning Advisory Committee approve the requested amendment to the notice of decision for the dog daycare and retail business at 80 Millennium Road, PID 173435, dated September 20th, 2023, and amend the term and condition to read as follows. 1. The applicant enter into a development agreement with the town for the doggy daycare and retail store located at 80 Millennium Drive, PID number 173435, to be executed prior to January 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Goslin. Can I have a seconder on that? Oh, Dwight, you have anything? Okay, no. Kendall?
I'll second that. Thanks.
Thank you. With that being, any debates on that motion? None being, can we have a vote on that, please? That motion's carried unanimously. So Dwight, will we approve the amendment to that notice of decision, or Jennifer? So good luck in getting that all straightened out. With that being, we'll revert back to item 7A. 7A is 175 Hampton Road. Jennifer, you want to introduce us to that item, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a request for discretionary use, a restaurant. So it is to be located at 175 Hampton Road in the mall, in units 103 and 104. It is a central commercial zone, so, it is permitted but discretionary, as we do like PAC to provide any terms and conditions as they may see appropriate. It is a limited service restaurant, and in one unit, and in the other unit, it will be an accessory phone store and repair store. Now, each will have their own entrance at the front. The only point that there's any connection of the two businesses is at the back, where the staff would share a washroom and a staff room. As you can see in the diagram there. The retail store is permitted without question. It's the restaurant that has ultimately brought this here before you. The proposed hours of operations were not provided in the application. That may be something that the PAC may wish to investigate. Notices were sent to landowners within 100 meters. No concerns had been received at this point, and staff have no concerns at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Could you please state your name for the record online, please?
Sure. My name is Shabahat Shakil.
Okay, Mr. Tavris, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add, prior discussions from or questions from PAC or members of the public? Anything you'd like to add, Mr.?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is that a question for me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I just want to know if you would have received the same package we did in the mail, and just want to know if there's anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to questions.
I did not receive any package as of right now. I don't know. This is the first time for me, being part of the PAC. So my apologies if there is something I'm missing. Just to introduce myself, I am the prospective tenant who is going to be renting this space. We are working with the Plaza Quispamsis, who's the owner of 175 Hampton Road strip mall. So I don't know if I was supposed to receive something, but I haven't so far.
Was that Jennifer?
I believe that Ms. Violet Brown, who is his PAC secretary, did send out the staff reports
To the owner,
to the
Yes.
applicants. You did receive that? The staff
I
report?
did that. Yes.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is the package that the chair is speaking about.
Yeah, that's the package we were talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that speaks very clearly of our intentions, and whatever Jennifer has explained is what we are trying to do. So overall, this space is about 2,600 square feet if we combine the two units. What we are trying to do is we are taking about 1,000 square feet, and we're going to be doing the retail of cell phone accessories and repairs there. And the remaining about 1,500 to 1,600 square foot is going to go towards the limited service restaurant. We are aiming for about 20 to 22 people seating capacity there for people who want to sit and eat, but more or less our focus is on, takeout and delivery business. That's what we are trying to accomplish. We have signed the lease with the owners, so it's just building permit request is already in. It is waiting for the approval from the PAC.
Okay, thank you. Members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Brenda?
Just a quick question. What type of food are you planning on serving us?
So I'll have to give a little bit of background. So what has happened is initially we want to do the Lebanese cuisine there, basically, the shawarma and all that. However, there was a miscommunication because we were working with the real estate agent, and there was a miscommunication between us and the agent, consequently between the agent and the landlords. So at that point of time, landlords did give us permission to do the limited service takeout restaurant, because initially when we signed the lease, we were going to do one full fine dine restaurant. But we had to change the plans because of several reasons, and we then requested them, hey, instead of doing one fine dine restaurant in the whole 2,600 square feet, we're going to adopt the two business models now. So for that, they approved the change of request, and we wanted to do the Lebanese cuisine. However, there's a communication going on between us and the landlord. So either it's going to be a Lebanese cuisine. If landlords did not agree, then it's going to be an Indian cuisine. So basically, we are doing back and forth between that. The concept will remain the same. The type of service and the limited service and all that is not going to change. We are just debating if the landlords are going to allow us to do Lebanese, or do we have to stick with the Indian cuisine. That's the point of, debate that we're having with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Oh, Brent?
Question for the applicant, I guess, what will be the hours of operation?
Just planning to open like starting about 10 a.m. until 8:30 to 9 p.m. We haven't finalized the hours yet, but our intent is not to open extended hours. It's going to be the regular business hours.
Thank you. Any other questions from PAC to the applicant? Is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? Kendall?
I recommend the Planning Advisory Committee approve the limited service restaurant and cell phone accessory store in units 103 and 104 at 175 Hampton Road, PID 00243204, subject to the following terms and conditions. Number one, the applicant obtains all appropriate licensing from the province of New Brunswick for the operation of a restaurant in New Brunswick. Number two, the restaurant, cell phone accessory store, accessory business complies with any and all requirements of the Provincial Fire Marshal's Office. Number three, development permits and building permits are issued by the town prior to any construction. And number four, the applicant enters into a development agreement with the town.
Thank you, Kendall. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Mr. Guest?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any debate on that motion? None being, can we have a vote, please? That motion's carried unanimously. Mr. Tavares, in 5 to 7 business days, you'll have a letter in the mail with your approval. Please work with the town to have all necessary documentation in place, and best of luck on your business venture.
Thank you, and my sincere apologies once again for joining late. It was just I was in so many distractions. So yeah, but thank you again for all the members.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yes. Take care. Bye-bye.
Item 8, information and items for discussion. None being. Item 9, can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Mark? Anyone? Brenda?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a seconder on that, please? Mr. Guest?
I'll
Second
second
one. All right, meeting's adjourned.